What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the most comprehensive weekly NFL player review series on the internet, my Studs and Duds series. Today we're going to be reviewing the studs and duds from NFL Week 13, whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling. And while we do that, I'm going to be going through this week's update for my own custom Madden roster. So yes, this is just a video game, but they are my own ratings, and it accurately reflects how I perceive each of these players and how my opinions on these guys is changing. So buckle up, we're going to go game by game here, but I do ask you please take a second to hit that like button down below and share this video with your friends who you think would also enjoy. So here we go, starting with the star of the week, and it is going to be the quarterback over there in Buffalo, Josh Allen, going up 2 from an 81 to an 83. The Bills are going to be just fine with what we're seeing from Josh Allen this year. The big question coming into the year was, can he weed out the massive amounts of head-scratching mistakes? And I'm not going to lie, those mistakes have still been there here and there, but the rate at which they show up, piled on top of the fact that the game has slowed down, he has been pretty remarkably accurate considering what he showed in the first few years of his NFL career. And it has all come together to a very high upside quarterback, and a quarterback that, yes, he might be a little bit streaky, he might have games that are significantly better than others, but it's at the point that his bad games aren't so bad that he's costing his team games. So Josh Allen this week against the 49ers was just unstoppable. He did whatever he wanted to a pretty solid 49ers defense, and he was putting the ball all over the field and did not make those big mistakes. So Josh Allen +2, 81 to an 83. In a normal season, probably an MVP candidate. Just happens to be in a year where both Rodgers and Mahomes are dominating as well. Then the dud of the week, Russell Wilson. Talk about MVP. It's a guy that after the first 4 or 5 weeks seemed like a lock to win the MVP, but the last 5 weeks of the season, Russell Wilson leading the NFL in turnovers. And it's not just that. You saw against the Giants some real flaws in Russell Wilson's game. If you can force him to stay in the pocket and take what the defense gives you, he is not comfortable. He is at his best, and he is most comfortable when he can get outside the pocket and launch the ball downfield to DK Metcalf. And teams are starting to take that away, and you are left with a quarterback that his counterpunches just aren't that good. He's still obviously an incredible quarterback. I would still say he is clearly the third best quarterback in the NFL, but you're starting to see some of those weaknesses. You're seeing him be a little bit more one-dimensional. He's not like Mahomes and Rodgers, where if you take what he does best away, they'll find other ways to beat you. Russell Wilson is having a hard time doing that right now because he's so dependent on those improvisational plays, the rhythm stuff, and reading defenses and making the correct reads. It's just not been there for Russell Wilson. I think he can develop that over the next couple weeks, get a little better at it, but I think it's fair to criticize him based on the way he's played over the last few weeks. So he's going to be the dud of the week. Lots of quarterback talk early on. Let's get into the games now, starting with the Jaguars at the Minnesota Vikings. So for this Jags offense, really this entire Jags team, they continue to just sort of find out who can play here, who wants to play when your backs are against the wall with a chip on your shoulder. And these are guys that are fighting for roster spots next season, fighting for their jobs next season. And that's going to start with Colin Johnson, big-bodied rookie out of Texas. Obviously, probably was not fighting for his job, but you get the point. He is really stepping up. 6'6", coming out of Texas, played with not the best vertical passers there. That's going to be his skill set at the next level, using that big body, getting open downfield. Not even necessarily getting open downfield, but using that big body to come down with some tough catches down the field. And he's doing that. He's getting involved in the intermediate passing game as well, showing some burst that I don't know that I knew he had that he didn't necessarily show at Texas. But yeah, he looks like a decently well-rounded receiver, all things considered, given the fact that he is a stiffer 6'6" wide receiver. But yeah, he looks good. A.J. Cann on the offensive line continues to be a rock. He's been a pleasant surprise for this Jags team. They have stuck with him and really developed him very slowly over time. He's gotten a lot of playing time. He's a good athlete with really nice, grippy hands. You get your hands on him at 325 pounds, 6'3", just kind of a rock in the middle there. If he gets his hand on you, you're really not going anywhere. So he's been a nice piece for them. Tyler Shatley, a veteran, starting at left guard over the last few weeks due to injury, and he stepped up. He looks like a guy that can at least be a rotational piece, not rotational, but next man up mentality there for Tyler Shatley. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Joe Giles Harris, linebacker out of Duke with some athleticism. He's playing well in a rotational role, flying around the field, being a secure tackler, everything you want to see there. Doug Costin continues to frankly dominate in the run this year. This is a position and a weakness for this team over the years that Doug Costin has been a piece for them that they've wanted to see somebody step up and play physical against the run. They found it in a 6'2", 295-pound, undrafted, undersized free agent out of Miami of Ohio, but he's been really fun to watch, seeing him come out and really just fly off the ball and give it his all. Same with Daniel Equale, plus 164 to 65 last couple weeks. Same narrative as with Doug Costin, just letting the guys that want to play hard and try to stop the run here get those opportunities, and they're stepping up. And then Dwayne Smoot makes his name out there again, puts his name out there again. Definitely a bit of a streaky edge rusher here. He's had some really good games. And doing it all here for this Jags pass rush that and run defense that has needed someone to step up with Josh Allen being out. Dwayne Smoot, an interesting player, a good athlete, just hasn't been able to put it all together from a consistency standpoint, but someone to keep an eye on for sure. I want to say he's in the last year of his contract. Then for the Minnesota Vikings, not quite as much movement, but some lower roster guys moving up. On the defensive side of the ball, I do have a note on Ezra Cleveland, who got the start at guard again this week, and he's playing pretty well at guard. I've kind of talked a lot about Ezra Cleveland over the last few weeks, so we're going to just keep this thing moving. But on the defensive side of the ball, credit to Mike Zimmer and these guys for stepping up at positions of true weakness. We knew that the edge position, the defensive tackle position, the cornerback positions were really scary for this team heading into the year. They didn't do the best job to address those spots, and some of the guys that they did have in those spots got injured. So Jordan Brailford, they pick him up from Washington, obviously a deep edge group over there, so he gets claimed here for Minnesota. He's stepping up for this rotation. And then Ifedi Odenigbo, he was kind of their number 2 guy opposite of Danielle Hunter, and he's been awesome the last few weeks. He has really been rushing the passer at a pretty solid level, so he looks like he might just be a guy that could be their number 2 pass rusher next to Danielle Hunter heading into next year again. See if he can have another good season there and be enough for them once they get their true number 1 back. So you like what you've seen from him. And then Cameron Dantzler going up here, plus 269 to a 71. Really intriguing prospect. The second Mike Zimmer landed this guy, I think we all kind of perked up a little bit. 6'2", really kind of quicker feet for a lengthy corner, physical guy, loves to talk trash, good ball skills, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. A really nice interception in this game, and he's just been very steady for the secondary. They've desperately needed help on the outside, and he's provided it as a rookie. So Cameron Dantzler looks like a really nice pick in the 3rd round. If nothing else, he could probably be a solid number 2, but he actually has some pretty nice upside. And the funny thing is, no one really knows how fast he truly is as far as his athletic profile goes, because he had a really rough time at the combine, and then apparently at his pro day he ran like a 4.35. So he's got some kind of hidden upside in there. We don't necessarily know if this guy has like elite athleticism, because it does kind of show on tape, but obviously you come out and run a 4.6 at the combine with all that time to prepare for it, you're going to have some hesitations on how explosive the guy really is. Then we got the Raiders at the Jets. So for the Raiders, Darren Waller plus 185 to an 86, self-explanatory here. He had, 200 yards, just uncoverable. He had a great game against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago as well. Fairly one-dimensional. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to catch the ball in that intermediate part of the field, and great athlete, catch and run, just going to run away from the guys that defenses try to match up with him. It makes sense that teams like the Jets and the Chiefs struggle with him because they don't have a guy with the size or the speed to match up with a Darren Waller. But all that said, one of the premier tight ends in the league. I mean, behind your top 2 guys, and then you've got maybe Mark Andrews, but Waller right there with Mark Andrews for top 3, top 4 tight ends in the entire league. And then on the offensive line, Colton Miller having a great season. This is great news for Raiders fans. was kind of an iffy draft pick. I didn't hate it, but they missed out on Mike McGlinchey, essentially. They did a coin toss in that draft, and kind of famously, you could see John Gruden like, oh man, like he was really pissed they lost that coin toss to the Niners. Both teams really needed a tackle in that class. Well, looks like Kolton Miller, after they traded down to get him, is a absolute player, and they're almost polar opposites at this point, because Kolton Miller is struggling a little bit as a run blocker, but long arms, quick feet, can anchor with that length as a pass protector on the left side, and he's really developed some of that anchor that was his problem coming out of UCLA. He's a really lighter tackle, so good on him getting to the weight room, beefing up a little bit, and playing very well. No questions really moving forward at left tackle for the Raiders. That was a position that you looked about 2 years ago, you're like, he has to work out, and he has. So great stuff there for Kolton Miller. And then on the defense, some of these guys developing and looking like really high upside players from that heavily criticized 2019 class. So Clelin Ferrell, I still think is always going to have some physical limitations. He's just not an explosive player, but he is making the absolute most of it. He just fooled Mekhi Becton with an in and out rip move that just created a sack here for Clelin Ferrell, and he's been getting after the passer better than I never thought he would have a season like he's having right here. So a ton of credit to the Raiders for putting him in a position to succeed. Obviously to Clelin Ferrell, who is utilizing that tool belt that he showed at Clemson, was never a bad prospect. And, number 4 overall pick, you're always going to have that microscope on you to become an elite player. And he is doing everything he can to put those questions to bed. I still don't know if he'll ever be elite, but you are still very happy with what you have in Clelin Ferrell, who has also been one of the best run-defending edge players in the league this year as well. And then Arden Key showing that burst around the edge is what it is. He's fine. He's an explosive guy. At this point, I don't think he's ever going to reach that high upside that he has, but good to see some development there, getting some pressures on a week-to-week basis as a rotational player in the pass rush game. And then Trayvon Mullen, again from the 2019 class, he looks great. He looks really physical, tough, zone corner. My comp for him coming out was Xavier Rhodes, and he looks every bit the part. That was my favorite pick of the 4 guys they took in the top 34 picks of that draft. And he looks like, at worst, a really good starting zone outside corner who can press and play nasty. Really happy to see what Trayvon Mullen's doing for a corner group that has desperately needed somebody to play well for years. Then for the Jets, Pat Elflein's going to come down. He couldn't make the Bengals. They tried to claim him. I think he failed his physical. He comes into the Jets. He started a couple games here, and he's basically been a turnstile there, as he was for the Vikings. So he's coming down. He had like one good year for the Vikings, showed some flashes, but yeah, he's just not very good. But Connor McGovern next to him is playing well. He was a very heavily paid free agent coming over from Denver. And he's been a really good run blocker. He was kind of the same in Denver, but he has struggled in pass protection. But this run game was really working this week, and Connor McGovern was a focal point of that, as were these running backs, both looking pretty good. So Josh Adams +1, 69 to a 70. Ty Johnson +2, 68 to a 70. 2 guys stepping up for an offense that desperately needs some sort of spark. Both these guys really explosive runners, a little bit different. Adams a little more lengthy and kind of awkward as a runner, but long strider, can really get going. And Ty Johnson maybe a little more compact, a little more burst, but both these guys look pretty solid. I don't get why, we shouldn't see another Frank Gore carry this season with these 2 guys. I don't know if P. Ryan's healthy or not, but we really should not be seeing Frank Gore play football at this point. Let's see what you could have in Adams and Johnson and P. Ryan. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Faloranzu Fadukasi, one of the best under-the-radar breakout stars in this league. He is one of the best run-defending defensive tackles in the league. They traded Steve McLennan with the foresight to kick Fadukasi into nose tackle, and my goodness, has he been even more astounding there. That's not even fair. He's just been super steady since he's been getting consistent playing time, whether he's playing more of that 3-tech or nose tackle, but he is just loaded, weight-wise. He just is very compact and sturdy, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. you can't move him. He's one of these nose tackles that literally does not rush the passer. Like, for whatever reason, these guys just don't get off the ball. They don't have the quickness to get past guys and get to the quarterback. But if the other guys are coming your way, they will be a brick wall, basically. And that fits the prototype for Fatukasi, who is just stonewalling dudes in the run game. So good for Fatukasi. Quinnen Williams as well, much different. He has the get off. He can get to the quarterback, and it's starting to show. They spent the number 2 pick in the draft on him, if that's right. I believe it was the number 2 pick in the draft. And he's showing why he was picked that high. He's been a good run defender, but starting to remind us of what he was at Alabama. That really well-versed skill set as a pass rusher that you don't normally see from an interior defensive lineman. So Quinnen Williams playing outstanding football. It's really weird to me that they did fire Greg Williams, because I get it. You kind of wanted that scapegoat for the whole like blowing the game. You wanted to make this appeal that, oh, we're not tanking, believe us. Like, look, we're firing our defensive coordinator because we're mad at how he, lost this game last second. Well, he's actually really developing some of your most valuable players here. So if all of a sudden Quinnen Williams and Fatukasi stop playing as well because Greg Williams is gone, that's just another terrible management decision from the New York Jets. We'll see how they play. John Franklin Myers, another one. He had 10 pressures in this game as a rotational pass rusher. They picked him up. That was a good acquisition to get him, kind of this weird tweener from the Rams, kind of a defensive end, 3-tech interior passing downs pocket pusher. But yeah, he's been really good. And then Jordan Jenkins playing well as well with Greg Williams here. We'll see if that continues. He's been a high effort guy, really good run defense there on the edge. Never going to be a high-end pass rusher for Jordan Jenkins, but he's been impressive. He's popped. Neville Hewitt, again, one of these under-the-radar, do-it-all kind of, I guess, 3-down linebacker. Like, he's just been stable and solid, not missing tackles, playing tough in the run game. So he's going to go up again. And then Javelin Guidry, I loved this man. As a 4th, 5th round pick, they get him as an undrafted pickup, very similar to Brian Poole here as that thick, speedy slot corner. Maybe never a guy that you want, flipping his hips and covering guys on corner routes too much, but in a zone-heavy scheme, he can definitely work. Very similar to like what we're seeing from Desmond King in a lot of ways, but a really fast player that will absolutely hit you. Has some upside to me as a free safety as well. Can really play downhill. So he's getting on the field and starting to make a name for himself and a case for him to be back on the roster next year. Then we got the Bengals at the Dolphins. So Drew Sample, T. Higgins, both these guys stepping up, which is saying a lot considering how big of a mess that the rest of this offense is. Sample's been a good blocker, but has been really stable when they do throw the ball his way. And T. Higgins, the fact that, he basically is their offense right now. Is just trying to chuck contested balls to him up the sideline, and he's got awesome hands. So he's been a great rookie, plus 177 to a 78. The offensive line, these guys going down. So Quinton Spain, minus 370 to a 67. They pick him up from Buffalo after he gets released, and we're starting to see why he got released. The choppy feet in pass protection, guys just turning him into a turnstile. And Michael Jordan, the left guard, oh my God, he is so bad. He should never play another game for the Bengals. We've seen enough. He cannot pass protect. He is a decent athlete and can run block, but my God, he is such a liability as a pass protector. Get him off the field. He is the reason Joe Burrow had that knee injury. Jordan literally got beat and shoved his man into Joe Burrow, and he was awful again this week against the Dolphins, as he has been in every single game this year. So he's coming down. Jesse Bates continues to make plays a little bit different this week. He made an awesome play catching up to Myles Gaskin, who may have had a breakaway touchdown if the safety here, Jesse Bates, did not have the high effort play to track him down from behind, wait till he had the leverage to get his arm around and punch the ball out for a forced fumble that, if this team could move the ball on offense, would have gotten them back in the game. But good to see Jesse Bates, I guess, trying here for a team that has nothing to play for and no momentum. They can't get anything going here for Cincinnati. Von Bell has been a nice signing here. He's been one of the best, most secure tacklers in the league. It's nice to have that from a strong safety. He's not a cover guy, but he's that security blanket. It's much harder to get past you and get those breakaway runs when you have a safety that can fly to the ball and break down and tackle you. Like, very simple football right there, but he has been excellent at that. Then for the Dolphins, buckle up, just massive amounts of movement. No surprise for a team that does have a lot of low-level players that are stepping up here, a team that doesn't have a ton of roster talent that needs to develop a lot of these guys. So it's great for the Dolphins to see this happening. So on the offense, Mike Gesicki, he is a super fun player, but he is a guy that has the upside of guys like, say, Darren Waller. He is a receiver. Like, you call him tight end Mike Gesicki, but you have to put that tight end in brackets. He's actually played more reps, not just as a slot receiver, but actually strictly as an outside perimeter receiver, like XY receiver here. He's played more snaps at that as he has actual inline tight end. And then you put in his slot receiver reps, and he's only played like 9% of his snaps as an actual tight end, and he's been a bad blocker when he plays tight end. So you have to put that caveat in there with him. He is a receiver, Mike Gesicki is what I'm getting at. But you can't cover him because he is way taller than any corner you might have, and he's way faster than any linebacker you might have. So really tough. I mean, unless you have a Jamal Adams or Derwin James or whatever, you're just going to have a hard time covering this guy. And Tua had some beautiful throws to him over the second level of the defense this week. So Gesicki, great fit as well with Tua, the way he wants to throw the ball in the parts of the game where Gesicki's going to be a mismatch problem. So if they can continue to use him and deploy him in creative ways, because he's not a do-it-all type of player, he's a one-trick, not necessarily one-trick, but one-dimensional player in a lot of ways. But if they can continue to maximize on what he does well, he's got a crazy high upside, very similar to what we said about Darren Waller. One-dimensional player, but that one dimension, you just can't stop it. So Mike Gesicki going up. And then Lynn Bowden, they traded for him, kind of an unconventional trade, a fourth-round rookie getting dealt before he even sees the field. And this one kind of head-scratching for the Raiders, I guess. You know, they obviously have a deep group of receivers. That must be why they traded Bowden, and a deep group of running backs. But, he gets brought in here. They trade a future fifth-round pick for him, and they were throwing the ball to him on some gimmick plays here, and he was making the most of it. So we'll see what he's got there. He's got insane amounts of athletic upside, but a guy that didn't really have a position coming out of college and has a lot to learn. Then you got Ted Karras. This has been one of many good free agent signings, but potentially one of their best. I mean, hard to argue with Emmanuel Ogbah, I guess, but yeah, he's been awesome. Ted Karras, lockdown center for an offensive line that just needs some stability. So to get the center to be that guy from a veteran, that's pretty big for this team. Robert Hunt played well this week. Good matchups. I still think he's got some struggles as far as getting depth in his pass sets, and I think long-term he should be a guard for this team. But in a week where he was matched up with some bigger defensive ends here that try to beat you with more power, he played well. Then you got Myles Gaskin. He has been really impressive for the Miami Dolphins. He was impressive coming out of Washington, but wasn't necessarily regarded as an explosive player, and that's why he fell. Well, he seems to have gotten to the gym and really developed some of that explosiveness. He really does have some burst, and he's a really smart player. He's an excellent receiving back. He had a really nice play where Tua was rolling left and probably was going to have to throw the ball away, but Gaskin, reactionary play that is often hard to find from actual wide receivers, recognized the hole in the defense, ran up the seam, and Tua hit him beautifully, and I think it resulted in a touchdown. If not that, they tackled him just short, but just a smart do-it-all back and someone that's a huge asset for this team. And then we switch over to the defensive side of the ball. It was a really impressive week for the defense. So all these guys in the front seven, Emmanuel Ogbah, Christian Wilkins, and Raekwon Davis. So Shaq Lawson, the only one not going up, but Lawson did have a good week as well. Interesting front seven here. I don't even know where to start. Emmanuel Ogbah, great signing. They run this hybrid 3-4 defense. So in base defenses, you're looking at a really undersized front, but they've very much not played undersized, basically. They play tough and strong. They hold their gaps. That is not easy to do. Every team in the NFL would love to line up an athletic Emmanuel Ogbah as a 4-tech, line up Raekwon Davis at 6'7", 310 pounds, a guy that should be playing defensive end based on his draft profile, but he is playing just like a rock nose tackle here. And then Shaq Lawson, who's 265 pounds, he should not be playing inside the tackle from a traditional sense, but they do it. They play them out of position in a lot of ways, and teams try to exploit that, and they just can't. They play tough and disciplined and hold their own, and they've done a good job to find guys like Agba and Lawson and Davis who are rare kind of outlier athletes, and it's all coming together to become one of the best front fours in the league. And then Christian Wilkins, much more of a traditional defensive tackle, so it's good to have that in the mix there, obviously, and he's a big part of what they're able to do because he is just very stable. So all these guys just really nice pieces for this Belichickian defense, and it's coming together beautifully, and it's benefiting everyone. So Jerome Baker is playing much better football over the last month of the season. Almost thought of a +2 for Jerome Baker. He's been flying around the field in coverage, so good to see what he's able to do. Van Noy gets a note on this week, really lighting up the box score this week, had a great day. He, to me, over the course of the season, still hasn't lived up to that pedigree of what he did in New England last year, so I think he's rated appropriately at an 80, unless he can do more of what he did this week every week. But then in the secondary, Bobby McCain is really rounded out as a free safety. I thought that was going to be a weakness for this team, is that having that rangy center fielder, this team likes to run a lot of cover one. And you want a really nice, rangy free safety that can be a security blanket, to be your Devin McCourty, if you will. And he's been much more of that. He's dramatically improved his tackling. I would credit Brian Flores and the secondary coach for getting that part out of him for a more undersized free safety. And yeah, he's just been extremely stable and rangy and good. And then Nick Needham holding on to this slot corner job for dear life. Obviously, they took Noah Igbenogany in the first round with immense athletic potential, and they want to get Igbenogany on the field to see what they have in him. But Nick Needham is just tough. He tackles so well. He's disciplined. He's not an elite athlete, and based on his physical profile, you'd probably project him to be more of an outside corner, but an interesting player at 6 foot, 200 pounds, who's shown the ability to play in the slot, but at his size, with his toughness, he could potentially go somewhere else that has more opportunities for him to be an outside corner and make some plays. Just an interesting player playing at a very high level, holding on to his job as an undrafted, more unathletic corner against the freak that is Noah Igbenogany, who, by the way, is playing well and trying to come for that job. So they're creating competition and getting the most out of these guys. And Xavier Howard, what else can you say? I mean, he is just lighting up the box score with these interceptions, 8 interceptions, but it's not just like fluky interceptions. Like, he's making crazy good breaks on these balls, and he's been stable on the non-interception plays. So he's just been awesome. Top 5 corner in the NFL this year and a huge asset for this Dolphins defense. So that was a lot, but there are your Miami Dolphins. Next up here, the Cleveland Browns, who dominated the Tennessee Titans in this game. Baker Mayfield going to get that boost, limiting those mistakes, being accurate, taking care of the football, and really just executing the very scheme that we saw break out here for Tennessee. He's playing very Ryan Tannehill-esque. He has much more of that it factor, though. I trust him to make that big play on third down. He's got that competitive drive to be great, and you're starting to see him get those opportunities to get back to the way he looked as a rookie. So that Baker Mayfield buzz, excitement, he's got the big commercial deal. He's the face of a playoff team here. I'm excited to see Baker's career. Like, I'm in. He's playing really well. You want to hope that he has self-corrected a lot of those flaws that he showed, as far as some pretty poor pocket movement decisions. I would say just consistently drifting into pressure was an issue, and forcing the ball over the middle of the field too much. But you got to respect the man. He clearly has that work ethic to acknowledge his issues, but not just that, develop them and avoid them and get them out of his game. So you're really excited about that with Baker Mayfield, +1 this week. Then the offensive line, Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Jedrick Wills. It speaks for itself. This is the best offensive line in the NFL right now. These guys are just mauling guys up front. It is almost unfair what they do. And then you have Nick Chubb behind them making the most of that blocking. It's just beautiful here. And then Rashard Higgins is capitalizing on the opportunities here with Odell Beckham out. Second week in a row, he's going to go up. Limited athlete, but a smart player. Finds the hole in zones. Great on reactionary routes when Baker starts to improvise. And really solid hands and makes some tough catches over the middle of the field. So he's a nice piece. Like if he's your third, you could probably manage. I don't love that he's your second, but they're making do this year with what they got. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones gets a plus note this week. Made a great play on a total busted coverage. So you look at the stat sheet and say, oh, he should go up. Well, I don't give him a ton of credit for what happened there. He caught it. He ran fast. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones. Just not going to get that boost this week. And then Malcolm Smith, the only guy going up on the defense, he has been awesome as a cheap rookie, cheap veteran pickup. Been one of the better cover linebackers in the NFL this year. He's been a leader for that defense, a linebacker position that they desperately needed someone to step up. He was one of the veteran guys they signed, and he's been great. Then for the Titans, who obviously struggled in this game, are going to get one player going up, Corey Davis, plus 180 to an 81. Total contract year breakout here. He is going to get the absolute bag here. Probably not by the Titans. You hate to let him go based on how he's playing like that top 10 pick that they invested in him. A guy that I compare to Allen Robinson coming out, he has been pretty much that, maybe just short from a route running perspective, but man, he is a phenomenal athlete with size. Going to be a desirable player based on what he has shown this year. He looks outstanding. We're talking 17, 18, 19 million dollars in free agency if and when he hits it. And then Harold Landry just kind of stopping with his development. He's been a bit of a disappointment this year, to be honest. Like, he is stable at getting after the quarterback. He'll get you 2-3 pressures a week, but he's a little undersized. He's not outstanding against the run. He just hasn't been a number one pass rusher for this team at all, and I think he has that upside, but I don't know. He just seems to have stunted and not getting after the quarterback in the way that you would have hoped. They seem to really have been counting on him to be their go-to number one pass rusher, and he just hasn't been consistent enough for them, so he's going to come down. I still like Harold Landry, but yeah, he's disappointing a little bit this year. Then the Lions at the Chicago Bears. So for Detroit, all offense here, all pass catchers here. No Matthew Stafford movement. I like Stafford. He's tied for the 7th highest quarterback in the league. At worst, he's 11th. If you want to talk about my Madden roster, great game this week. Play like that consistently, and you'll get brought up. But the receivers making plays this week. So TJ Hawkinson continues to reach that potential as the top 10 pick that he was, blocking really well, making plays when the ball comes his way. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Marvin Jones going up. He's regressing back to what he is, which is a capable number 2 who's going to make some really nice plays downfield. Had a great touchdown catch in this game, and he's in a contract year, and he's playing much more like his old self. So could he be a decent find for a team looking for a deep threat in the offseason, or does Detroit try to bring him back? I don't think they do with how Quintez Cephas looks. When they drafted him, that just made so much sense that is what they were trying to do. Obviously, they're going to have a new front office next year, but Cephas was Marvin Jones at Wisconsin. I said it before Detroit drafted him, and then they draft him, and it's like, okay, clearly he's the long-term Marvin Jones for this team, and he made a beautiful Marvin Jones-esque catch, concentration catch in traffic. He was open, and Stafford made a beautiful throw, but he had 2 guys on him, and he tracked it, came down with it, falled into the end zone. It's exactly who he is. He's a little bit slower, but just picture that running 9 routes on the outside, mixing a post and a corner route here or there, and a guy that's going to consistently come down and track the ball well downfield. That is Quintez Cephas. Good to see him do that at the NFL level as he did this week. And then you got Jamal Agnew. He's a converted cornerback who's been a good kick returner here. They got him in the mix early on in this game, and he was catching the ball, created, I think, 1 first down, and another play where he got absolutely stonewalled on 4th down. You can see that why he played defense for most of his career, because just not the best ability to make guys miss. He is very fast, but an interesting piece that is making that conversion to, I guess, running back, receiver, flex, whatever you want to call it here. But yeah, he made some plays for this team this week. Then for the Bears, Sam Mustipher, center out of Notre Dame, is going to go up, I guess, 9 this week, 52 to a 61, just out of nowhere. just stepping up, playing center with some of the injuries they have there. They've kicked Whitehair over to left guard. James Daniels out of the lineup right now. Whitehair's playing much better at left guard, by the way. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on Mustafa here if there's anything more than a backup. But David Montgomery going to go up. He has been awesome. It just makes you think what he could be on a competent offense because he's a consistent factor in the receiving game, but his vision and his stiff arm and ability to fight for tough yardage and convert some really difficult third downs for this team, I don't know if they would be where they are offensively without David Montgomery. He's been awesome. Darnell Mooney, you guys know I'm a Darnell Mooney guy. He gets more involved in the passing game. Trubisky actually played decently in this game, and just goes to show you if they can just get somewhat stable quarterback play, what these receivers can do. Anthony Miller and Robinson had good games as well. Jermaine Ifedi has been a part of the good production here on offense this week, was solid in pass protection, moving back to tackle after failing at guard, looks okay. And then Bilal Nichols, as you move over the defensive side of the ball, you will see that plus for Cordero Patterson, who is just fun and powerful at running back. I have officially switched him from receiver to running back on my roster. But yeah, Bilal Nichols going to go up +1. Looking more like that rookie year Bilal Nichols, who was blowing things up in the passing game, getting some good pressures and sacks, but also been more stable as a run defender. So he looks like a guy that has turned things back around after a big sophomore slump last year, a high upside interior defensive tackle. They need a long-term answer to Akeem Hicks. Maybe Bilal Nichols can be that, a little bit of a different player, not quite as big, but regardless, a nice high upside piece for that interior defensive line. All right, next we have the Colts at Texans. Tons of movement for the Colts here. So Braden Smith getting back to playing at a high level, kicking ass in the run blocking game, but more importantly, establishing himself much more as a pass protector after struggling earlier on this year. So +1 for Braden Smith. Mark Glowinski, I will say, is struggling in pass protection at right guard, a little more undersized. He kind of got worked this week and hasn't been the best this year, so he's going to go down. Then Phil Rivers, +1, 77 to a 78, settling into a new scheme here, looks much more comfortable. They are running a ton of mesh, and Rivers is just dominating with it, showing a lot of those nice anticipatory floaters into the second level on like corner routes and stuff. So Rivers going to go up 77 to a 78. Also limiting the big mistakes that were always a question with Rivers and were a problem for the first, I would say, quarter of the season. Then Jonathan Taylor, definitely a star of the week candidate here. Jonathan Taylor, he has 9 avoided tackles over the last 2 weeks, and in the first 10 weeks of the season combined, he had 8. He is showing vision in the run game. He's making plays in the receiving game, showing why they spent that second-round pick and why he had so much hype coming into this team, and he's reaching that upside. If he can be an explosive factor for this team, maybe break off some big runs, all of a sudden this offense has a little more fear factor to it as they head into the playoffs. So you're definitely excited about Jonathan Taylor and what he's showing if you're a Colts fan. Then on the defensive side of the ball, plenty of movement here. So Kenny Moore going to go up +1, 78 to a 79. He is just such a secure tackler, such a physical, typical like high play slot corner. Rips an interception out of Brandon Cooks' hands this week. So he's going to go up. Xavier Rhodes going to go up, super comfortable, getting back to the basics, playing a ton of zone coverage, just very comfortable in this scheme. Same thing with TJ Carey, which basically feels like Pierre Desir all over again. You saw Desir go to a different team, struggle, get cut almost immediately. But TJ Carey, the same thing. That 6-foot outside smart zone corner. Keep your eyes on the quarterback. Keep everything in front of you. Good, tackler, physical run defender. Him and Rhodes, very similar players. So these guys going up, boosting the floor of this defense, as is El-Kadin Muhammad, +1, 72 to a 73. He's always been that stable run defender, and no different this week. He can do some things as a pass rusher, just a really nice role player for the Colts that very few people know about. And then DeForest Buckner, definitely creeping up towards that elite defensive tackle conversation. Just hasn't had that consistency over the course of his career. And frankly, over the first quarter and a half of the season, wasn't necessarily showing it as he adapted to a new team. Now, he's a very unique outlier type of athlete. He's 6'7", 300 pounds, playing on the inside. So he's kind of like Calais Campbell in a lot of ways. But yeah, he has been much more consistent over the last few weeks. Now, we'll find out. Is that matchups, or is he truly figuring out that full tool belt that he kind of needs at that size? Because certain guys are going to be able to really get their hands inside if they can have kind of the ability to leverage themselves, play low enough to get under him with the foot speed to match his quickness that he has. It's going to be a little more matchup dependent at times, unless he can develop a full tool belt as a pass rusher, which we've seen over the last couple weeks. So not trying to be overly critical. He's been awesome, but that's if you want to talk about him being in the same class as your Chris Jones, say, Cam Hayward for the Steelers. We know he's a top 10 defensive tackle, but can he get into that top 5 elite conversation? I think he has officially entered it with his performance this week. Grady Jarrett, another name that he's going to be competing with to get into that talk. Some other names as well. Anyway, Anthony Walker going to come up +1, 71 to a 72. He's been good in coverage. He honestly, Colts fans are going to freak out about this. Okereke and Walker get better depth as coverage guys. They don't bite the cheese as much in play action. They are bigger impacts in coverage. Now, Leonard does so many other things at a super high level, but Walker is a nice counter to Darius Leonard in a lot of ways. So don't overreact to that. It's not that I'm saying that Leonard is terrible in coverage, but I'm just saying Walker gets really nice depth in coverage. He gets back very quickly, which allows him to keep everything in front of him. That's probably the criticism on Darius Leonard, is he cheats down a little bit too much. So there are nice compliments going on there. But anyway, Justin Houston turning things back around after going down 3 weeks in a row, and he comes out with a great performance. Now, he's still been really bad over the last 2 months of the season, but yeah, he had a great week this week, so he's got to come back up a little bit, showing that he still has that type of performance in him. And then I forgot to talk about T.Y. Hilton, who makes the notes this week. He looks healthy. He looks good for this offense. So between him, Rivers playing like he is, and Jonathan Taylor playing well, all of a sudden the upside on this offense is coming up a little bit. Then for the Texans, Deshaun Watson going to go up for the second week in a row. He has just been outstanding. He's probably been the third best quarterback in the NFL over the last 5-6 weeks. So he's been awesome. He's the only reason this team was in this game. Some of the plays he made, just bailing this team out. It was just pretty crazy. Kiki Kuti, Chan Hansen. Whew, a lot of names here. Going up +2, 66 to a 68. He gets an opportunity here for one of the first times in his career and looked great, going out for some tough contested catches. Definitely someone to keep an eye on. The Texans have not had that big-bodied, kind of tough go-to guy on third down to come down with some of those tough catches, obviously since they so famously let DeAndre Hopkins go. But Watson clearly wants that guy on third downs, and he's got it in Chad Hansen. At least he did this week. We'll see if he can sustain that. And then just some notes here. Laramie Tunsil has certainly struggled a lot more over the last month of the season. Looked like he was establishing himself as an elite tackle, but not playing like that over the last month. So definitely a red flag there on Tunsil. And then Whitney Merciless, not going to come down here. We've lowered him a bunch this year. I'm willing to chalk this up to he is just checked out. He's only 30 years old, but he has really been one of the worst starting edge players in the league this year. But I don't know if I'm going to lower him or not the rest of the year, because I'm willing to chalk it up as he is just checked out on a season that doesn't matter here. He doesn't want to waste all of his effort and risk getting hurt when he knows it's all for nothing, which you don't like to see a guy check out like that. But I'm willing to bet on the fact that he at least has some juice left in the tank, maybe for someone else next year. Next, we've got the Saints-Falcons game. So Taysom Hill going to come up. He's actually playing pretty well. He's making good decisions in the passing game. He's showing some decent accuracy down the field. Like, he's been pretty impressive. I still got my hesitations, obviously, but worth coming up here as an actual quarterback. Then the tackle, James Hurst, stepping up with some injuries there, +1, 66 to a 67. A veteran that's played pretty good football over the course of his career. Not a huge surprise to see him playing well for a Saints team that gets the most out of these offensive linemen. And then for some of these playmakers here, Jawan Johnson, a lot of us remember him at Penn State. He transferred to Oregon. Huge dude, 6'5", 230 pounds, literally a tight end. And he was on this list of guys like him, Colin Johnson, some other players that I said someone in this class is going to be a star tight end at the next level because of the way guys like Gesicki and what's his name I'm really drawing a blank on his name. Darren Waller out there in Las Vegas, because of the trend of these guys stepping up. And honestly, man, Jawan Johnson, he's playing receiver here, but I know that that's on Sean Payton's mind. Now, they have all these other tight ends. They have Taysom Hill when Drew Brees is in there, so I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity. But Juwan Johnson blocking his absolute ass off. Like, my goodness, he is mauling dudes. So, I'm just going to call this right now. Juwan Johnson, I said it back in March. Someone in this class, I didn't know who it was going to be, but someone was going to become a star tight end in this class as these wide receivers. And I got my eye on Juwan Johnson here. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes, but I'm intrigued. Adam Troutman, +1 again. Dude, he has been arguably the best blocking tight end in the NFL. Dan Campbell, the tight ends coach here, obviously a huge head coach candidate that's being a bit of a sleeper right now because he was an interim head coach in Miami, and now he's been here in New Orleans for a while, and these tight ends just, they play their ass off, and they understand the importance of their role, which if you can take that and populate it over the course of your entire roster, as I think Dan Campbell can because he can clearly coach, you're in business. So keep an eye on all of that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, these linebackers really impressing. So Demario Davis has been going back up to what he was last year, but over the last month of the season, he's been maybe even better than he was last year. So, man, Demario Davis could be going up if he continues to play at this elite level. Then Quan Alexander, I have no idea how the Saints afforded him, how they were able to trade for him, but good for them because they needed some more sideline-to-sideline speed. They needed a Robin to Demario Davis's Batman, and they found it. Quan Alexander, always going to be a just hot pursuit, risk-taking linebacker. He is going to miss some tackles and gamble some in coverage, and you'll have some moments where you're like, I wish you just played a little bit more on your heels because he is full steam ahead. But when it clicks and when he looks good, and he's found a scheme that works really well for him here, it's pretty fun to watch Quan Alexander fly around. Then for the Falcons, Calvin Ridley going to come up. Kind of resurfacing, looks healthier, was banged up for a little bit there, but he's having a phenomenal season, so he's going to go up. And then Chris Lindstrom might be the piece that you're most excited about other than AJ Terrell, who's been good for them. But the young piece here, must be the most exciting young piece coming out of the season for the Falcons is Chris Lindstrom. Looks like a potential superstar right guard. They spent a top 15 pick on him, so to see him playing up to that potential is very exciting for the Falcons. Todd Gurley's going to come down -2, 79 to a 77. Came out, looked terrible to start the year, readjusted his career a little bit, became more of a power back, played with some more patience, but I think he's getting impatient playing like that, frustrated that he can't play like his old self, trying to kick it outside more, and clearly he just is not even a top 100 athlete at the running back position anymore. Like, he just does not move well at all, and it could not be any more obvious. So he's coming down. Then Michael Walker, +2, 69 to a 71. Another exciting young piece here is Michael Walker here for this defense. You have three really athletic linebackers, one of the more intriguing young trios at the linebacker position with how Michael Walker is playing, especially as a coverage player. I missed on him. Like, he clearly can play. I didn't have him high on my board at all coming out of Fresno State. They did a great job to identify him, and he looks awesome. Dante Fowler, not so much. Pretty self-explanatory. He's not rushing the passer. He's been miserable as a run defender. Look at what he did when he got to play next to Aaron Donald, and then look at what Leonard Floyd has done, an almost identical player when he got to play next to Aaron Donald. Like, when you don't have to worry about guys like Fowler and Floyd because you're so focused on Aaron Donald, they can make some noise as pass rushers. But when they're their only guy, and Dante Fowler is their only guy, he's just not good. So he's coming down for that reason. Then speaking of Aaron Donald, we're going to talk about his Rams here. Tons of movement here. Such an impressive job this coaching staff is doing. This is also a 2-weeker here, including week 14. So the offensive line, pretty self-explanatory. This is one of the best run games in the league, and this is so big for them. This was the biggest reason they struggled so much last year was the offensive line, and they really doubled down on these guys. They didn't make any big moves, but coming into the year, we were talking about guys like Corbett, Noteboom, Edwards. Like, some of these guys had to step up, and really they all have, especially with the injury there to Whitworth. So good for these guys stepping up, coming to their own in this outside zone scheme. Then Cam Akers, right there with the star of the week candidates. He is just awesome. He finally is getting run blocking here, and you can see those athletic traits shining through. So really not a bad thing to say about Cam Akers. Just looks so explosive. I imagine he's going to continue to climb because he has really established himself as their best running back. He's going to continue to get carries, and with his athletic traits, the confidence he's playing with, and the blocking he's getting in a scheme that works, he's a likely future star in this league. Then Sebastian Joseph Day, as we switch over to the defensive side of the ball, continues to be a dominant rotational run defender for them. One of these guys stepping up at a position of need for them. And then really across the board, same theme. Justin Hollins, rotational edge player, playing great run defense. Troy Reeder really earning that starting linebacker spot. This has been their biggest weakness, and he's been really nice in coverage, being a good leader for them in the middle of the field as well. So excited to see them get a middle linebacker because that has been rough. And they also got a great play from Young, the other linebacker out of UCLA, had his best day as a Ram as well. And then for the secondary, Troy Hill has been outstanding the last couple of weeks, playing a lot in the slot as Darius Williams has established himself as this team's outside corner opposite of Jalen Ramsey. So one of the best trio secondaries in the league, one of the best secondaries, period. I wish they had a little more range at the safety position, but these guys get the job done. They run a ton of too high as well, which limits these guys' weaknesses as far as range is concerned. So John Johnson, been one of the best tacklers in the league, just a huge role player for this defense to limit big plays and fly around, show off that sideline to sideline speed. And then Nick Scott is getting in that rotational looks as a dime safety here, playing some too high looks, as John Johnson can get a little more involved in the box with a guy like Nick Scott back there next to Fuller. Not so exciting for the Cardinals, who are really struggling down the stretch. J.R. Sweezy on the offensive line is healthy and playing, and has been a downgrade at right guard for them. Does not look great on the back nine of his career. Christian Kirk coming down. Andy Isabella struggling as well. Not going to lower him this week, but I'm a little disappointed in Cliff Kingsbury because they're forcing Kirk to play outside. They're forcing Andy Isabella to play inside. I think if you flip that, you're going to see much better production from these guys. Kirk is a slot receiver at his core as far as his skill set is concerned, and Andy Isabella is not a slot receiver. He's not a tough, over-the-middle type of guy. Just use that speed on the outside. You might see different players from these guys. So, it is what it is. He's going to come down. I think if used correctly, Christian Kirk could be a really nice slot receiver. He reminds me a lot of Randall Cobb, so he's going to come down. Kyler Murray going to come down as well. He's just not been a sharp decision maker. He's making poor reads. Continues to show some of that inaccuracy over the middle of the field. So I still like the future here for Kyler, but a little disappointed in his development as a passer over the back end of this season. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Chris Banjo, been a nice veteran plug-in at safety. And then Jordan Hicks going to come down as well. He has been a bit of a liability out there, especially in run defense, just not playing physical, but he's been getting lost in coverage at times. Probably a lot of coaching stuff going on there with Hicks as well, but yeah, just not looking good. Next up, we've got the big Giants-Seahawks upset, so let's start with the offensive line. Cam Fleming been playing right tackle over Matt Pert, who got in for another 14 snaps this game. They clearly want to go with Matt Pert. I wish they would just do it because he is actually playing pretty well, but Fleming holding on to that job, playing pretty well. But more importantly, Andrew Thomas at left tackle is totally settled in the last 4 or 5 weeks. This was my tackle one in this really looking like a legendary tackle class. So he needs to play well, considering the standards that the other guys have set. And Thomas, to me, was always the guy I said draft season did need the most work on his pass technique, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because of his athletic traits. And that's kind of what we're seeing is he's improving his kick slides, he's getting his hands inside, and he has been awesome. So the first tackle picked of the 4 starting to play much more like it and just might have the upside and future outlook of those 4 guys. Just a little bit behind the 8 ball, I would say. But yeah, really excited to see what Andrew Thomas has been doing here. A star of the week candidate, honestly. Then you got Alfred Morris playing well, let's move on. Colt McCoy playing well, let's move on. Blake Martinez, what the hell? Green Bay's coaching staff should just, on the defensive side of the ball, if you needed any more evidence that they need to change everything, Blake Martinez is crushing it here for the Giants because they aren't putting him in a position to fail. They aren't having him man up tight ends. They aren't having him drop 10, 15 yards back. They're having him around the line of scrimmage. They're having him focus on that leadership stuff, putting him in positions where he doesn't have to make a ton of tackles in space, and you're left with a pretty solid linebacker. He still has weaknesses, and I still don't know if I'd pay him $10 million a year, but man, he is to the point of being an asset for this Giants defense. So Blake Martinez, credit where credit's due, and then Tay Crowder, he's just impressed me. They're asking him to actually play a really difficult role. This week, they put him out at edge outside linebacker, and he played discipline. He tackled well. He looked pretty solid to me. Nothing crazy here, but like what I saw. And then Carter Coughlin was one of the stars of the week for this Giants defense. Again, in a very strange role, playing essentially a contain edge linebacker. And Carter Coughlin is ideal for that. He's a guy with 4.5 speed, good pursuit, and good tackler. So if he can refine some of those pass rush moves, I've always been a big Carter Coughlin believer, and I think the Giants at least have a good role player in him. And then Leonard Williams balling out in this scheme this year, playing some edge, playing some 3-tech, getting after the quarterback, playing a good run defender in that role. Just a really impressive all-around season for Leonard Williams. We know he's a high upside player. This to me is probably the best version of him. I don't know if at this stage in his career he's going to refine his pass rushing skill set and be, one of these elite guys, become, I guess, the best potential for him would be a Cam Hayward. I don't know if he's going to get that refined as a pass rusher, but at worst, just a really solid stud of a defensive end, playing probably his best season here. And then in the secondary, Isaac Yiadom settling down here. A rough start for the Giants, but he passes the eye test as a starting caliber outside corner. A lot of physical upside, and they're letting him play with his eyes to the quarterback. A lot of zone coverage here, and he's very comfortable doing that. So he looks good, looks like a great pickup for them. And Darnay Holmes getting that start in the slot. He's had his ups and downs in coverage as any rookie slot corner will have, but he's making plays. He's making plays on the ball. He's tackling well. Just a really fun player, Darnay Holmes. I like this secondary a lot. I just like this defense a lot. They're doing such a good job putting all these guys in their best positions to succeed. Seahawks maybe not doing that so much on either side of the ball. Not a ton of movement here. We talked about Russell Wilson, and then DJ Reed actually playing outside corner here, which is strange. The Seahawks, if anyone, have always had a height cutoff for their corners, yet here they are playing a 5'9" outside corner. So Pete Carroll maybe becoming a little bit less stubborn here with that defensive scheme, becoming a little more creative to try to fix some things. And it's been an upgrade at that outside corner. So he's been nice. If not an upgrade, a Band-Aid for DJ Reed there, who's been kind of this weird slot corner, free safety, now outside corner, do-it-all defensive back. Then we got the Patriots at the Chargers. This is also going to include the Patriots-Rams game, but most of the movement here coming from that Chargers game. Was not a good week for the Patriots against the Rams. But Gunnar Olszewski, he's going to come up, just looks really athletic. He did make a big touchdown play in this game, but also going up because of some of the playmaking he's shown as a punt returner. So yeah, he's been nice. And then N'Keal Harry, it's kind of funny. Like an all-time back against the wall, like turnaround performance this week against the Rams. We lowered him last week down 3 to a 69, and then just as soon as the broadcast was calling out N'Keal Harry as a total bust, he comes out, makes a couple nice catches, really kind of back to back, and shows that he can still play. So eyes on N'Keal Harry. Still not great, but he's going to get one of those overalls back that we lowered 3 last week. Then on the defensive side of the ball, outside edge, hybrid outside linebacker, Josh Uche going to go up 1. He has been outstanding when he has played. I want to see him get full-time starter reps, make him this team's Kyle Van Noy, if you will. Super high upside rookie, getting in the mix here. I like that pick a lot. It made total sense in this scheme. So he's rushing the passer, coverage, run defense, just a premier athlete for that role, and an exciting piece for this defense. Then in the secondary, all these safeties, Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar, and Miles Bryant, all a little different. Phillips, more of that kind of dime linebacker. He's been really stable, having his best career probably. And then Kyle Duggar, super athletic, strong safety out of Lenore Ryan, early second-round pick. Just a great fit for this defense. So he's just making plays, been steady in coverage, getting more playing time. And then Miles Bryant, an unbelievable interception against the Rams. He was a really interesting player coming out of Washington, 5'9", kind of one of these corners that you don't know what to do with. There's a large list of these 5'9", 5'10" corners, kind of deemed undersized by the NFL, but if you can find their skill set and use them in the right way, I mean, we just talked about DJ Reed playing outside corner. Well, Miles Bryant, at the same size, basically, coming in and playing free safety and making a great ball-hawking interception this week. So, a player that has, to me, honestly, the upside to be like Bobby McCain in this defense, be your McCourty back there. So great pickup for the Patriots. Undrafted rookie. Then for the Chargers, just a couple pieces moving here. Forrest Lamp coming back down to, looked good early on, but is really struggling in pass protection, but a decent run blocker. But I think they could probably do better at left guard at this point than Forrest Lamp. And then just a note on Storm Norton for those, real deep TFG fans. You'll remember me talking about him in my Chargers deep dive. Played really well in the, not AAF, the XFL. But he has the athletic traits to be a starting left tackle in the NFL. He's got length and foot speed. And he gets to start at left tackle this week and held his own. So keep an eye on Storm Norton. They need some tackle play. So just a sleeper that I predicted has a chance. We'll see. And then for the defense, Justin Jones, +2. He's been their best interior run defender. They need somebody to step up there, absolutely. So in year 3 for him out of NC State, showing why he was drafted in the 3rd round as a high upside physical run defender. They have really lacked at that position, and he's stepping up for them. And Kenneth Murray had his best game as a Charger this week as well. I saw that they changed the play calling duties over to Vigil, which just let Murray kind of focus on flying to the football, playing fast, relax a little bit, and he had his best game by far, so we'll keep an eye on that. Then the Eagles-Packers game, Carson Wentz getting benched this week, unable to move the ball. He's coming down for the 3rd week in a row. I'm not going to talk about what you do with him in this episode. We've talked a lot about him already this week. Then Jordan Mailata, +1, 66 to a 67. He's been maybe the lone bright spot for this offense, along with Jalen Reagor making some plays this week. Mailata, freaky athlete, just needs to learn how to play the position after basically never playing football before the Eagles took him in the 7th round last year. But yeah, he's been a nice left tackle for them, and he's just a beast. He's really intriguing. Good to see him continue to play well, and he's got some pretty major upside, especially if he continues to play like this. Then the receivers, a lot of movement here, so Reagor is going to go up. Greg Ward going to go up. He's just been stable enough as that slot receiver that I was comfortable boosting him up. And then Travis Fulgham is going to come down. Seems to me that was just a flash in the pan. I mean, this is a guy that didn't make the Lions, didn't make the Packers. He had a great run. He made some really nice contested catches, but those are always pretty unstable, and you're seeing him not get the playing time. But not just that, he's not making the same plays when the ball does come his way. So he's going to come back down. I think he still has a chance to be a capable number 2 outside receiver at some point, but has really had a falling out here with the Eagles. And then on the defense, just one guy coming down. It's going to be Darius Slay, close to a dud of the week this week. Just really struggling the last couple of weeks, having to deal with obviously some really good receivers in Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf. But you get whooped like that, you're clearly not an elite corner. You're allowed to get beat here or there. But, the Eagles, the Packers, they didn't have a care in the world that Darius Slay is one of the highest paid corners in the league. He looked like just another guy out there. Same thing with him in Detroit last year. They traded him away because they just didn't think he was that type of player. So he's a good corner. He's the best they have, but he is not a superstar corner at this point. I'm pretty comfortable saying that. Then for the Packers, the passing game moving up here. So Aaron Rodgers, I really think he is neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes in the MVP race. The things he's doing with basically just Devontae Adams and then just a bunch of random pieces, it's really impressive. He's going to play some pretty weak defenses in the coming weeks. He has a chance to shatter his own quarterback rating record. He's at 118 point something right now. The record of his is 122.3, I think. So he could shatter that. He could throw 48 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, doing it with really a bunch of nobodies and Devontae Adams, who is just crushing it. But yeah, Rodgers has just been basically a less athletic version of his old self, but Not even that. Like, he is just playing much more calculated. He has been the most sharp, decisive field general in the league, and he still has some of that ability to improvise, and obviously still has an amazing arm, can make some of those wow throws. So, he's really kicking ass this year, and he's comfortable clearly in year 2 of this scheme. He's been just a surgeon out there is the way I would describe it. And then Devontae Adams is going to come up. I've talked about this throughout the year that the route running, the release, it's been elite. That's never been a question, but he has been not questionable, but just not a dominant hands receiver. He's had drops, but he also, more than that, just hasn't always been the guy that comes down with those tough contested catches. And he's had some of that chip on his shoulder. He is mossing dudes out there, using that high vertical and arm strength that he does have to out-physical corners. He's utilizing that to his advantage now more than he ever has in his career. And if he does that consistently, he can be DeAndre Hopkins. He can be he can be a guy regarded consistently as in the conversation for the best receiver in football. I mean, seriously, he separates. He's a great route runner. To me, the best release in football. But if he starts showing some more of that physical aspect of the game, he could definitely be in that conversation for the best receiver in football. Helps to have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, though. Then Allen Lazard, plus 173 to a 74. Talk about physicality. He has been a phenomenal run blocker for this team, but just a stable pair of hands, and that's a lot for this team. So he's been steady. Rodgers clearly trusts him. He basically just always comes down with it when they go towards his way, which is saying a lot for this team. So let's move on. Broncos at Chiefs. It's not all bad for the Broncos offense. Some young players playing well here. So Dalton Reisner, after struggling early on, has really settled down as a pass protector. Obviously having to deal with Chris Jones this week. Did a very nice job. So plus 173 to a 74. He's had a good month. Noah Fant as well, kind of navigating these quarterback issues and making plays for this team. He is a big play waiting to happen. Uber athletic, was a first-round pick, and I think is going to have a bright future with the way he's playing. Just needs to have more consistent quarterback play. And then on the defense, Deshaun Williams going to continue to climb as that rotational run defender for this team, and Isang Bassi playing physical slot corner. Thin cornerback room here. Good to see a undrafted rookie playing tough at that position. Then just one player going up for the Chiefs. It's going to be Travis Kelce, plus 2, having the best year of his career. Hard to argue with him being the best tight end in the NFL right now. I still love some George Kittle, and both those guys are in a tier of their own. But Kelce, a better route runner and probably better hands in general, ability to kind of make those tough contested catches. Just an elite tight end in every sense of the word. He looks like basically primetime Gronk, like, peak Gronk right here with Travis Kelce, the year he's having out here. Unbelievable, the mismatches they can create between him and Tyreek Hill. Then the Washington football team at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for the football team, we basically boosted their entire team last week. Not quite as much movement this week. But Cam Sims going to go up plus 169 to a 70. Appreciate the chip on the shoulder that he plays as. A 6'5" receiver coming out of Alabama that never really got an opportunity. Getting those opportunities here and making the most of them. He has done a really nice job after the catch. He cut a screen on like 3rd and 19 that the football team had no business converting, and Sims did a great job reading his blocks, breaking some tackles, fighting for it. It's not just that, he's done it on other plays as well. So plus 1, Cam Sims looks like a capable player for them, even if he lacks some of those athletic traits you look for from a big guy like him. And then Montez Sweat going to go up. He's just been very, very steady. He still has an elite upside, needs to develop his game more as a pass rusher, but he's playing tough. This is what he needed. He needed a culture where he could really settle down, find a role, and have a coach that's going to just get the most effort out of Montez Sweat. And it's been a great spot for him. He's been a phenomenal run defender and a stable pass rusher. Not a great pass rusher, but definitely good enough to be your number 2, opposite of what Chase Young is doing right now, who is going to get a plus note this week, looking like that premier edge prospect. Could be due for a boost pretty soon. But then for the secondary and the second level of the defense, Cole Holcomb, this guy just is a really good football player. Like, there's really no other way to put it. He's a do-it-all linebacker. I see no reason he can't be a 3-down star linebacker in this league. He shows up every single week. He plays well in coverage. He tackles well. He flies to the ball. Just a complete stud of a find here for the Washington football team. I see no reason he shouldn't be this team's go-to number one linebacker moving forward, even though they have some other good guys. Then for these safeties, Cameron Curl, DeCesar Everett, continue to keep everything in front of them, tackle well, play decent as kind of do-it-all safeties, I suppose. I don't like the upside of either of these guys, but they're fine. Let's move on to the Steelers. Robert Spillane, I've been really impressed with his ability to keep that job after they traded for Avery Williamson. And he's been playing some of that, he has not kept the starting job, but he's been a really good coverage rotational linebacker. And he has shown some really nice instincts and route recognition and ability to break on balls on concepts thrown underneath him. So he's impressed in that aspect. So he's going to go up for the second week in a row. And then Alex Highsmith having to step up with Bud Dupree out now. He was a third-round pick out of Charlotte, a really athletic, kind of undersized edge outside linebacker. The jury is still out on what he can be as a pass rusher. He does have some upside. I want to see him get a little bigger, utilize some power as a rusher, not just rely on get off and bend. But clearly a serviceable starter and a great find for the Steelers. I wasn't crazy about Highsmith. I think I had a 4th-round grade on him. I liked the athletic traits, obviously, but a player that needed to go to an organization like this that's going to develop him, and he did. He landed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so he's a very intriguing player. And the prospects of him and TJ Watt with the athleticism and get off and just overall explosiveness of those two guys is very intriguing. So definitely someone to keep an eye on heading into next year. And into the playoffs as well as like a breakout candidate, but especially after an offseason to really prepare and get his body ready for the NFL. All right, 2 games left. We got the Bills at the 49ers. We talked about Josh Allen. And then on the offensive line, Ike Butker continues to go up, the offensive lineman out of Iowa, doing it all for this Bills offensive line that's been quietly one of the better ones in the league. And then Daryl Johnson, +1 for the second week in a row. They've needed someone to come in and I'm not going to say play the same role as Lorenzo Alexander because he was such a unique player, but being that kind of early down run defender on the edge is something they've needed. AJ Epinesa hasn't consistently given it to him, and Daryl Johnson's just a interesting, explosive athlete that's really contained the sideline really well. Did a good job in a game where they needed that against an outside zone heavy 49ers team. So Daryl Johnson, only like 22, 23 snaps a week, but continues to be a good role player for them. Then for the 49ers, Nick Mullins, obviously a streaky guy, maybe a matchup-dependent guy on a team that's going to allow him to attack the middle of the field and not force him to truly push the ball downfield. A limited quarterback, but he's a decent backup and a good, I guess, filler for this team. So a good game against the Bills. I was impressed. He's going to go up too. Then Laken Tomlinson, he has been so steady on this offensive line. One of their best guys. Just breaking out late in his career, becoming one of the, not premier guards, but just one of the top, stable, reliable, high-level starters in the league. And then Dante Johnson, he's bounced around the league. He's played some safety. He's played some outside corner, doing a little bit something different this time, playing some kind of weak side linebacker, strong safety, nickel corner stuff for this team. He's a bigger-bodied guy, 6'2", about 205 pounds. And he came out tackled, played physical, kept everything in front of him, looked pretty good. So I don't know if he'll keep that job long term. They've obviously been pretty banged up. I don't think that Kwan Williams was available in this game to kind of play that same role. But regardless, Dante Johnson playing it this week against the Bills and did a good job. Finally, the Cowboys-Ravens Tuesday night football game. So for the Cowboys, did some nice things on offense in this game. Noah Brown made a really nice play in this game. He's done a good job when they call his number, so he's going to go up 168 to a 69. Then Connor McGovern +1 as well. They've absolutely needed somebody, just anybody to step up in offensive line with all the injuries they've had. I liked McGovern coming out of Penn State. He's a really good athlete, and he's played well, stepping up as a pass protector for them, doing some really just do-it-all play as a starting guard. Might be a really nice piece to have as their 6th man on the inside next year, getting Zach Martin back. Then for the defense, some pretty obvious guys going down here. So Leighton Vander Esch, man, you can only hold on so long after you have a rookie year like that and then just don't play like it again. So he was phenomenal. He was one of the best linebackers in all of football as a rookie, but he's dealt with injuries. He was not good last year, and he has not been good this year. He's been incredibly streaky,
And it's just time to lower him until he plays like he did his rookie season. Honestly, 78 probably still too high based on what he's been. But, it's not like he's been terrible, but he just hasn't been the playmaker. He hasn't been playing disciplined as a run defender. He's not getting in passing lanes. He's not making plays in pass coverage like he did as a rookie. So it's just time. And then Aldon Smith, going to come down. He flashed early on this year, was flying off the ball, but as this team has gotten further and further out of things and as things continue to spiral, the effort has not been there. He's been awful, just straight up awful as a run defender, which is not what you want to see from Aldon Smith, who's just a guy that has been a questionable character. And to not see the effort on run defense it's head scratching, and the pass rushing has dropped off as well. So he's going to come down after a hot start to his season. Chidobe Awuzie as well. This could just be the Mike McCarthy effect. Cornerbacks, defensive backs tend to get lost when he is their head coach, but you can't excuse it. He has not been good out there coming back from injury. So he's going to come down -1, 79 to a 78. Disappointing contract year for Chidobe Awuzie. And then for the Baltimore Ravens, just one player here, Ben Powers, +1, 64 to a 65. Guard out of Clemson, stepping up with some of those injuries on the offensive line. Protecting the inside is something they desperately need. They will be very happy if Ben Powers can establish himself as a starting caliber guard like he played as this week against the Cowboys. All right, there you go. There are the studs and duds of NFL Week 13. If you're downloading the Madden roster this week, also check out kickers and punters. I didn't include them here in the analysis portion of it, but I did do a full upgrade, about 40 kickers and punters on the move this week. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Consider joining me on Patreon to show your support, get some exclusive access to some content like weekly picks and film breakdowns and stuff. But until next time, guys, cheers. We'll see you for the next one. Peace out.